Chapter 2371, Everything Under Control, 1. Zhang Yi was still shaken. If Yang Xinxin hadn't been so prescient, he might have already lost himself under the shepherd boy's influence, or even been assimilated by Samuel's power. The newfound power within him was both an asset and a potential threat. I'm fine now. He took a deep breath, suppressing the turmoil in his heart, and his eyes sharpened again. Brian, can you still keep up with Burning Bones and the others? Brian sniffed carefully and nodded. Although your scent was a bit off just now, their scent trails are still there. Come with me. After the illusion faded, the deathly silence of the forest seemed even more profound. Zhang Yi did not take a step immediately. He stood still, his brows furrowed, as if he was reliving the experience of being on the verge of the abyss. Brian scratched the ground nervously with his paws. So, bro, what are you waiting for? Yang Xinxin watched him quietly, waiting for his instructions. She looked at the change in Zhang Yi's expression and seemed to understand something. What did you just see in Samuel's illusion? Did you discover something new? That was not Samuel himself, but merely an overflow of Samuel's spirit and will. However, those who were spiritually influenced could experience Samuel's intense will. This is a disaster because people's minds may be corrupted and forcibly assimilated by Samuel. However, if you can resist this kind of mental pollution, it is a huge opportunity. Zhang Yi, who has lived for more than 30 years, can converse with Drucker, a giant who has lived for billions of years and comprehended the true essence of the world's origin. Isn't that a tremendous gain? Brian and Yang Xinxin didn't have that opportunity because Brian was a modified dog with a pure heart. As for Yang Xinxin, her spiritual power was enough to shock the 4 knights of the Yihan clan. Don't rush off. Zhang Yi finally spoke, his voice carrying a strange calmness, completely different from the danger he had just displayed. He turned to look at Yang Xinxin, his eyes sharp and clear, yet also concealing a kind of restless madness. I want to try being mentally corrupted again. That guy seems to be trying to tell us outsiders something. By figuring out the reasons, I can understand the essence of mental pollution. Perhaps I'll also gain other insights. Brian, keep watch around and alert us immediately if there is any unusual activity. He first gave instructions to the White Labrador. Although Brian was puzzled, he still growled to show that he understood. His ears perked up and his nose twitched, spreading his senses to the maximum extent. With Brian, the world's #1 police dog, here, I guarantee that no danger will be able to get close without my senses. Then, Zhang Yi's gaze fell on Yang Xinxin with unusual seriousness. Xin, I'm about to do something very dangerous. He pointed to his forehead. Samuel's mental pollution, although it was suppressed by your rules just now, I experienced something different from it. He paused, as if searching for the right words. A vague sense about the nature of power. It's dangerous, but it could also be crucial. I don't want to miss this opportunity. Yang Xinxin gazed at him with her bright, obsidian-like eyes, neither asking nor objecting, but simply listening quietly. I will proactively lower my defenses and accept the pollution again. Zhang Yi's voice was low and firm. I need to experience and understand the rules that Samuel wants to convey, even if they are distorted. But the risk is that I might get lost again, or even be assimilated. He pointed to the faintly visible fallen puppet behind Yang Xinxin. Therefore, I need you to set up a final insurance policy for me. Aim your arrows at me. Once you determine that my consciousness exceeds the safety threshold, or I show any signs of being completely controlled, do not hesitate. Act immediately. These words were spoken calmly, yet they made Brian's hair stand on end. Hey,
Zhang Yi.
Are you crazy? We're trying to avoid that thing's pollution, and you're actually going to go for it. The Labrador was so anxious it was spinning in circles. What if Yang Xinxin makes a mistake, or you fall too low too quickly? That's the meaning of insurance. Zhang Yi interrupted it, his gaze still fixed on Yang Xinxin. I trust Xinxin's judgment. I also trust myself. I won't be defeated so easily. This is a gamble, but the stakes are worth it. Yang Xinxin stared at him for a few seconds. In her eyes, which seemed to understand cause and effect. A data-like light flickered slightly, as if she were rapidly calculating various possibilities. Finally, she nodded slightly. Understood. Rule locked. Target Zhang-Yi. Consciousness contamination level exceeds 50%, or irreversible assimilation characteristics appear. Forced purification to be executed. The opponent was not Samuel himself, so for Yang Xinxin, getting Zhang-Yi to wake up was not a problem at all. Even if Zhang-Yi is truly assimilated, the meme virus's power can be used to forcibly change his cognition. This is not defense, but a backup of a higher level of capability, ensuring absolute safety. Okay, that puts my mind at ease. Zhang-Yi smiled slightly, took a deep breath, and his eyes were filled with excitement. The excitement and determination of an explorer facing the unknown abyss. He found a relatively flat rock with his back against a huge dead tree root, slowly sat down, took a deep breath, and then slowly closed his eyes. Let's begin. With a thought, the invisible mental barrier around him, constructed from spatial power and a strong will, slowly dissipated like melting ice and snow. Almost the instant the barrier disappeared, the omnipresent cold and viscous mental pollution of the dark sun forest, like sharks smelling blood, surged wildly into his unguarded mental world. The fallen puppet behind Yang Xinxin solidified completely, and the eerie longbow composed of cause and effect and memes was drawn back. An arrow exuding a cold chill was knocked on the string, its tip pointing precisely at Zhang Yi's brow. Yang Xinxin's eyes were incredibly focused, like the most precise instrument, watching every slight change in Zhang Yi's body. Brian stood to the side, a hint of worry in his eyes, but there was nothing else he could do at the moment, so he could only silently complain in his heart while keeping watch on his surroundings. Those in the shadows felt a little worried upon seeing this. However, considering Zhang Yi's steady behavior and the fact that Yang Xinxin was there as a backup plan, they relaxed a little. The prison guard doesn't seem to be in a hurry at all. Fatty Sue scratched his head and said with some curiosity. Bluebird Li Yangyang draped her arm over her shoulder, her brows slightly furrowed. Since entering the dark sun forest, Lord Zhang-Yi has given the impression that he has everything under control. Chapter 2372 Everything Under Control 2. He didn't seem to be in a hurry to find fire. Yang Xia smiled and skillfully made several hot drinks on the side, then placed her hands on them and activated her ability. Her superpower index has reached 12,000 points. After returning from the conquest of the Wulwan Empire, Zhang Yi obtained a large number of sacrificial spirits. Yang Xia, without a doubt, has advanced to the realm of Ypsilon. The ability of Feast evolves into Queen of Gourmet Food. Any food she creates with her hands will become extremely delicious and tempting. Most importantly, it can enhance the user's mental strength, physical strength, and even compatibility in a short period of time. Therefore, don't underestimate her low ability index. As a support character, she can provide Zhang Yi with tremendous help. Li Yongyang smiled as she took the cup of beverage from Yang Xia's hand. After taking a sip, she immediately felt her energy and spirits improve, and her body felt comfortable. Her eyes were lowered, and she thought to herself, even with us, would Zhang Yi hold back? As clever as she was, she realized that Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin must be hiding something from the rest of them. However, it's not a good idea to ask about this. Even though Zhou Kuer and the others knew that Zhang Yi was hiding something from them, they didn't care too much. Because they trust each other. I didn't tell them, either because it wasn't necessary or because of some principle of information confidentiality. Zhang Yi was being invaded by the spiritual will that permeated various parts of the dark sun forest. His brow furrowed instantly, and his body trembled slightly. A hallucination several times more intense than before descended once more, and this time, he willingly opened the door. The green grassland at dusk, the vast sky with its white clouds, and the gentle breeze on your face make you feel very comfortable. The shepherd boy remained seated on the rock, his posture relaxed. But when Zhang Yi's consciousness appeared in this wasteland, The gentle smile on the boy's lips seemed to deepen, and a hint of expected amusement flashed in his black, swirling eyes. "You're more interesting than I imagined." The boy spoke, his voice still clear. "Those who dare to step into this world are either foolish madmen or," he paused, "potential kin." Zhang Yi's consciousness stood before the boy, striving to remain clear-headed. "I just want to see some things clearly." "See what clearly?" The boy tapped the ground lightly with his shepherd's staff. "See why sheep eat grass and why people eat sheep. Or see what yourself truly are." "Yes, we have both," Zhang Yi said frankly. After voluntarily embracing the pollution, he felt a deeper connection with this illusion and could even sense a faint pulse emanating from the barren earth beneath his feet, the lingering will of Samuel's dormant true form. "Very good." The boy seemed quite satisfied with the answer. "Then let's continue our previous topic. Humans eat sheep to gain strength and prolong their lives. Sheep eat grass to survive. Grass absorbs nutrients and water from the soil and grows tenaciously." He stood up, walked to a clump of tender green grass, bent down, and gently touched a dying blade of grass with his finger. "Then tell me, traveler, where does the power that man ultimately gains come from? Is it from sheep? Is it from grass? Or this seemingly silent soil that has nurtured countless lives?" This question goes deeper than the last one, pointing directly to the source of energy transfer. Zhang Yi lowered his eyes, his mind racing. That feeling is here. It's as if a person is about to have an epiphany, suddenly touched by a certain point in an instant. For a long time, a cloud of doubt had been hanging over his mind, and he was unable to resolve it. He used to believe that all of the body's energy came from Kaga. At the moment of creation, during the Big Bang, the material universe was endowed with power. That force spread throughout the universe and also formed the existence of humankind. Therefore, all energy originates from ether fragments. Organisms must evolve by constantly hunting other organisms and plundering their ether fragments. But what about the ground centipede? Why are they able to increase their superpower index by consuming energy ores? Therefore, the pure etheric theory is not entirely correct. Humans must have other evolutionary pathways or other energy sources. According to conventional understanding, energy is transferred through the food chain, with humans at the top and power seemingly originating from the next level of organisms. But tracing back to the source, the original source of all energy is indeed the environment, the soil, the basic material and rules that constitute the world. The boy did not wait for his answer, but slowly walked towards another direction in the wasteland. There was a shallow pit, with some broken bones that looked like human remains scattered around it. They were slowly merging into the soil and becoming nourishment. "Look here again." The boy's voice carried a distant compassion, or perhaps mockery. After a person dies, they are buried in the earth, their flesh and blood decay, their bones weather away, and eventually they become nutrients for the soil again. Years later, perhaps new grass seeds will sprout here, be eaten by new flocks of sheep, and eventually they may enter the body of a new person. He turned back, his dark eyes fixed on Zhang Yi. A perfect cycle, isn't it? Devouring and transforming, birth and death. So, in this cycle, what am I? Am I the individual consciousness thinking at this moment, or the eternally flowing energy called life itself? What is the meaning of individual existence on the scale of the universe? It is nourishment and also a predator. Zhang Yi's consciousness began to fluctuate violently, and the shepherd boy's words were like heavy hammers, repeatedly striking his cognitive barriers. Samuel's will is not simply madness. It contains a cold, grand, and fundamental cosmology that points directly to the essence of life. Under this concept, the life and death, good and evil, and emotions of individuals all seem insignificant and trivial. Only the flow of existence itself and the transformation of energy are eternal truths. This kind of thinking is highly polluting because it is partially correct but leads to utter nihilism and the indulgence of instincts. Zhang Yi's eyes began to glow crimson simultaneously in both reality and illusion. He felt his consciousness being assimilated by this grand perspective, and his individual will was like a castle on the beach, teetering on the brink of collapse under the onslaught of ideas. The power originating from the Mad Owl and belonging to the Druk god race within him was exceptionally active under this resonance, yearning to merge into this all-consuming cycle. He saw it. Deep within the illusion, the image of the shepherd boy began to appear somewhat illusory and transparent, as if it were merely a preset photograph, a teaching program that carried a portion of Samuel's will and knowledge. Chapter 2373, Everything Under Control, 3. The true Samuel remains dormant in the deepest part of the dark sun forest. But even this photograph contains enough information and ideas to make even the strong lose their way. Greed, devouring, returning to one's origin. All sorts of thoughts grew wildly in Zhang Yi's consciousness like weeds. In the real world, black patterns began to faintly appear on the surface of Zhang Yi's body as he sat cross-legged, somewhat similar to the signs that appeared when Odin was assimilated. His breathing became heavy, and a cold, predatory smirk unconsciously curled at the corner of his mouth. Brian barked nervously. Yang Xinshin's fingers, resting on the bowstring, tightened slightly, and the fallen puppet's arrows gleamed with a dangerous, cold light. In her pupils, the virtual value representing Zhang Yi's level of consciousness contamination was rapidly rising, having already surpassed the 50% warning line and approaching 70%. Zhang Yi. She called softly, her voice as light as an ice pick piercing into Zhang Yi's nearly chaotic mind. In the illusion, Zhang Yi suddenly shuddered. Yang Xinshin's voice was like a safety rope, pulling him back just as he was about to completely slide into the abyss. His bloodshot eyes were fixed on the gradually blurring image of the shepherd boy, and a silent roar came from the depths of his soul, resisting the force that was pulling him toward nothingness. He felt it. Beneath Samuel's seemingly perfect theory of reincarnation lies a complete denial of individuality and transcendence. This may be a shortcut to gaining power, but the price is losing oneself and becoming a muddled node in the universe's energy cycle. This is not what he wanted. I am not just nourishment, nor am I just a predator. His consciousness roared in the illusion. I am Zhang Yi. My existence, the meaning of my life, can only be determined by myself. Boom. It was as if some kind of shackles had been broken, or as if a drowning person had finally broken through the surface of the water. Zhang Yi suddenly opened his eyes. The scenes of the real world reappear before their eyes. Yang Xinshin, Brian, and the dark forest. He was panting heavily, his body drenched in cold sweat. The black lines on his body were slowly fading, and the crimson in his eyes was gradually disappearing. Although he was still exhausted, he had regained his clarity. Is it over? Brian asked cautiously. Zhang Yi did not answer immediately. He was sensing the changes in his sea of consciousness. Although it was extremely dangerous, he did gain a deeper understanding of the nature of energy and the rules of Samuel. This understanding is not about agreement, but a breakthrough in cognition, like solving a complex math problem. Although the problem itself may be malicious, the process of solving it improves your abilities. He looked at Yang Xinshin, who had already put away the fallen puppet's longbow, but her eyes were still focused on him. For now, everything's all right. Zhang Yi's voice was a little hoarse. He slowly stood up and moved his stiff limbs. Thank you, Xian. Just now, if it weren't for Yang Xinshin's call and the constant threat of arrows, he might not have been able to break free on his own. Yang Xinshin gently shook her head. Your consciousness has finally completed the analysis and isolation of the polluting information. The risk was high, but there also seems to be some gains. Zhang Yi nodded, his gaze drifting deeper into the forest. After this voluntary baptism, he felt that his perception of this forest had become more acute, and he could even vaguely perceive the outline of that dormant will. Let's go, he said, his eyes growing even more profound. I think I've seen through many things. The gains from Tianyu Palace have put me on the right path. But there isn't only the right path in this world. I accept Samuel's gift, although the way it was presented was a bit unusual. Yang Xinxin and Brian looked at Zhang Yi with curiosity. They didn't understand what Zhang Yi had gained in Samuel's spiritual world. Zhang Yi had no outsiders around him, and he also had a very good impression of Brian and Professor Da Vinci. So at this moment, Zhang Yi did not keep it a secret, but quietly revealed what he had gained. Everyone, listen carefully to what I am about to say. This is an insight gained by the second generation of humans at the beginning of the universe. Zhang Yi stretched out his hand, looking at his perfect demon god armor and feeling the power in his arm. According to Kagago's theory that he is the creator, the entire universe was originally empty and nothing existed. Everything that can be seen is an illusion, a collection of forces. Therefore, matter does not exist. What we see is an illusion, a vessel of ether. The crowd understood Zhang Yi's explanation. Intelligent people like Professor Da Vinci and Zhou Ke immediately grasped it. Some people with poor comprehension skills say, "Although I don't understand it, it sounds very impressive." Just then, Zhang Yi suddenly asked, "But where did the original power of this universe, this material world, go?" These words startled both Yang Xinxin and Professor Da Vinci, their expressions becoming extremely serious and solemn, as if they had heard an incredible theoretical doctrine. Zhang Yi continued, "The universe we see was created by outsiders. It was formed by Kagago's will. But where did the power in this universe go before the arrival of higher dimensions?" Zhang Yi looked at the black sand beneath his feet. Sheep eat grass, and people eat sheep. But to grow grass and trees, you need soil. Therefore, we have been overlooking a major issue in the past. As carriers of etheric fragments, the universe we cannot see is actually the foundation of everything. Yang Xinxin had already understood what Zhang Yi was trying to say. The opposite of the universe. No, perhaps it should be called the positive side of the universe. Our material world is the dark side rooted in this universe. A very bold idea came to Zhang Yi's mind. His alternate dimension did not come from another dimension, but rather crossed the material world created by Kagago and connected to this universe. To give an example, our universe and the universe created by Kagago are like two overlapping sheets of paper. Zhang Yi's ability is to create a hole in the new universe, travel to this universe, and then create another hole in the new location to jump out. Therefore, it appears that they simply disappear directly into the spatial dimension of the new universe, thereby completing space travel and the ability to transfer matter. As for the dark energy that Zhang Yi obtained in that dark abyss, it is the purest energy in this universe. Antimatter. After sorting out all his thoughts, Zhang Yi felt more at ease than ever before. In that instant, his understanding and control over his own superpowers became even stronger. Although his ability index remained unchanged, his strength increased dramatically after he understood not only what it was but also why it was so. Moreover, the path ahead will become clearer. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.